Okay, so today in this video we're going to talk about basically an introduction to blood. Now, first we have to define blood. So, what is blood? Well, you probably all have an idea of what it is, except we need this definition. It is a tissue composed of fluid, cells, and fragments of cells. Now, what does this mean? Well, first we have to realize what a tissue is. So, as you know, a tissue is probably a group of cells that work together to form a specific function. Now, since we know what that tissue is, basically this is a group of cells that work together to form a specific function. So that's what blood is, composed of fluid, cells, and fragments of cells. Now, blood has many objectives. There are many reasons why we have blood, but first we need to start off with the components of blood and what's inside blood. Before I do that, I will just draw this over here to illustrate this. Now we have our plasma. Now, what is the plasma? The plasma is basically the liquid portion of blood. And in fact, 55% of blood is plasma. Now, what does this mean? Okay, so basically, it's just the liquid portion. It's the reason why blood is liquid. And it would just basically be everything. Everything inside this bloodstream. The bottom of it. Everything. Because it's all holding everything in here together. It's the bottom, and it's also what's pushing the blood, and what's really pushing the red blood cells as well, and all the cells inside of blood. So that's just basically what plasma is. And normally it's kind of yellowish, so it's kind of yellowish, and it would just be identified in a bloodstream, and you would have to know that it's basically yellow and liquid. So from there, we go on to red blood cells. I'm just going to say RBC. Now, with red blood cells, their function is to carry oxygen and hemoglobin. I will explain what hemoglobin is later. And what these are basically fundamental to our bloodstream, because we all need oxygen. Not to mention it carries carbon dioxide as well. And basically they have some sort of nuclei when they're formed, but when they enter the bloodstream, their nuclei goes away. The nucleus, and they're created in the bone marrow. So I had like a bone that was like that. This is like one part of the bone. The bone could be like some kind of tube of sorts. I'll just pretend, and they would be formed like in here, and then this is basically the bone. But from there, when we have our bloodstream over here, the red blood cells are basically like these small circles or whatever shape. They're just floating around going places. And they don't have a nucleus. So just remember. But then we get to, from here, we get our white blood cells. But before I talk about white blood cells, I want to talk more about these red blood cells. Now, the hemoglobin is basically needed to carry oxygen with the blood cells. And old red blood cells are destroyed, and the oxygen is sent to the lungs and in other parts of the body. Now, carbon dioxide is carried and hooks with water to form bicarbonate. Now, that's an important function in our body as well. So, basically, now I am able to go to white blood cells. Now, we probably know what these WBCs are, and they're central to the immune system, but they're also from this circulatory system. They protect from certain substances, you would say, like foreign substances that enter the body, like bacteria, diseases, and they protect. So then so far in here we have our plasma, so liquid area, we could say. Let's point that as plasma. And then we get our red blood cells, RBC, and then we get our white blood cells, a little larger. And then we're going to the platelets. Now, platelets aren't exactly easy to show in a bloodstream, but platelets, we're right over here. Platelets. Platelets are needed to heal blood clots and other injuries, and they basically form these scabs that you get. And you probably have experience with having scabs. Now that's the platelets work. And just to stop you from over bleeding and too much blood loss, but they're the small cell fragments. They're the part of the blood that is the fragments of cells, and they form kind of a net, like a interconnected net, branching out everywhere. And there's some kind of like net, this preventing this like blood loss. If I had like a wound behind that net, it's healing because of the platelets. So platelets are quite essential. Otherwise, for this introduction of blood, we will then discuss the different types of blood and antibodies and antigens in the next video. So if you have any questions, just ask.